Listening to Chet Baker since the 1950s. Well, now there's a new film called Let's Get Lost that celebrates Chet Baker, the man and the musician. This was Chet Baker at his peak in the 1950s, when his singing and playing made him world famous as a prime proponent of the West Coast School of Jazz. Cool jazz, they used to call it. And this was Chet Baker in recent years. His face ravaged by time and hard living, but his talent undiminished. But Baker had more than talent. There was a kind of aura about him that attracted people. Photographer William Claxton was just one of many who've been mesmerized by Chet Baker over the years.
Making enlargements and the image was coming through in the developing tray, and I remember having a very strong feeling of, for the first time, of what photogenic meant, or what star quality meant, or charisma. And that was a new word in the mid-50s, so, yeah. And I thought, God, this guy's got all that stuff, and I discovered him, you know, photographically.
Baker's attraction was such that he even appeared in a few movies, including this one made in Italy.
Adriano! Cosa vuoi, americano?
But it took photographer Bruce Weber to capture the real Chet Baker on film. And he did so in the same way he shoots his famous fashion ads, in intimate settings and very high style. Weber's commitment as a filmmaker paid off. Let's Get Lost was nominated for an Academy Award this year. But it took much more than dedication. It took money, a lot of money. And that came out of his own pocket.
Imagination is funny. It makes a cloudy day sunny.
Nobody would give us money to make a film about Chet Baker with Chet, you know. They'd be afraid he wouldn't show up. He's not very bankable, you know, and you know, and who knows what he'd say, you know. There'd be all kinds of problems.
Weber's is one of several recent films about jazz personalities to focus on the musicians' lifestyles as well as their music.
I don't think these jazz films are so much about drug addiction as they're about addictive personalities who, you know, were kind of square guys who wanted to be hip and who wanted to make beautiful music. And I think that people say, well, Chet wasn't such a great person. Well, maybe he wasn't, but he did give us something back. He gave us a lot of music and a lot of romantic images to carry us through all these crazy hard times that we have, you know.
And certainly Let's Get Lost gives us the whole picture, the painful and sensitive parts as well as the happy ones. The last thing on this filmmaker's mind was to glorify drugs in any way, and he doesn't.
I hope that a lot of people in all ages really, like, who see the film, see that it isn't glamorous to be high, you know. And I think that part of Chet's highness was really in his music, not in his drug taking.
Baker died last year from an apparent fall from a hotel window in Amsterdam. A curious end to a troubled life. But in a very real sense, Chet Baker lives in Let's Get Lost. Leonard Maltin, Entertainment This Week.
Rob, Leonard mentions the circumstances surrounding his death, a mysterious series of events, really, that some people have made the suggestion that it was not investigated as properly as it should have been, simply because it did occur in Europe, and there was some feeling at the time that people just didn't want to deal with it, really.
Well, it's his life that they talk about in Let's Get Lost, and it has set house records in New York City, and it's going to be opening in 40 other cities nationwide over the next couple of weeks.